Have you ever played a Hitman game and thought, this is really difficult? Or I've been thinking about playing a Hitman game and just haven't got into it because it's way too difficult and complicated for you. I'm here to tell you that in reality, it's not. Hi there, I'm Magna. In this video, I'm going to give you 5 tips about how to make your experience in Hitman that much easier. Let's get to it. First tip I'm going to give you in playing this game is use a controller. This tip is optional, but it is highly recommended. If you start playing Hitman games and you start playing on the PC and you use a keyboard and mouse, you are going to find it very difficult because Hitman requires precision at times, and quite a lot of the time, it's very difficult to do precision in Hitman without free hands on a PC. First, you have your movement, which is going to be very difficult. Well, very simple to do. Then you'll have your camera movement with your mouse. However, when you have to get to the nitty-gritty and the assassination parts, it's going to be quite challenging. You're going to have to move your hands around, and honestly, it just takes way too much work. For Hitman, normally I recommend using a PlayStation controller. At the moment, I have a PlayStation 5 controller. This is what's up on the screen. As you can see, it's really simple. It makes playing the game a lot easier. The second tip I'm going to give you is probably really simple to do. However, not a lot of people do it. Use the minimap. The sight in the game is very, very good. And when you're starting out, I highly recommend it. It lets you see where all the enemies are. It lets you see various other aspects. It just lets you peer through walls, basically. And it tells you what ones are hostile, what ones you have to be careful of, because they'll be able to figure out your disguise. It's just very good. However, your minimap also does that. You look on your minimap and you see several different kinds of dots. If you are trespassing or in certain areas, then what will happen is people start having white dots on them. Now, white dots means if you are seen by these people, you are going to get caught. You're going to get questioned. They might just follow you around. They'll be suspicious. People with black dots don't really care about you. You have completely blended in and you are perfectly fine. And obviously people with red dots are your targets. When you are using disguises, you are going to want to make sure that there are as little white dots as possible on the map, or at least in the area that you're going to. Now, the reason for that is it's less likely to get spotted. I mean, the fact that you're not going to get spotted means that your risk factor has gone down tremendously. Obviously, you have to be very careful. You cannot do illegal actions. You know, a little bit of common sense goes a long way in that aspect. The minimap is generally a much better idea as well if you're showcasing stuff, because not everyone wants to see a grayed out screen when they're looking at certain parts of videos. So that's why most of the time, people who are professionals, who have spent a long time in Hitman games, will generally use the minimap function a lot more. Third recommendation is about awareness. Now, with awareness, some people might be thinking, what are you talking about? Obviously, you just spoke about that earlier, about people being detected and undetected and stuff like that. It's not. If you are next to one guard and you knock them out and another guard sees, straight away they will say crime noticed. That happens, and then the body that is knocked out goes orange. That means you've been spotted. So say goodbye to any silent assassin runs. You'll see in this clip that depending on where I throw the wrench and hit the person, sometimes the crime is noticed, sometimes I am spotted, sometimes they're an unconscious witness. You have to be very careful and figure out certain angles to make sure what you are doing is not spotted, especially if you want that silent assassin achievement. Fourth tip is also quite simple. When you are using throwing items and stuff like that, you need to make sure that what you are throwing would actually take someone out. Say, for example, if you're throwing a coin on the ground just for a distraction. If you throw a coin on the ground, they might not hear it as much. However, if you throw something like a wrench on the ground, you hear more of a clang. That means that they are more likely to hear it. So obviously, if you're going for a distraction, you need to make sure that you're using the right tools for the right job. Alternatively, if you are using throwing items to knock out opponents, if you throw, say, like a muffin at someone, it will paralyze them, but it won't necessarily knock them out. So after that, you need to knock them out. Because let's be honest, you throw a muffin at someone, it's not going to knock them out, is it? You throw a wrench at their head, lights out. So just think about what sort of items you're using for what sort of situations. The final tip is a very obvious tip. However, not a lot of people realize that it is actually something that Hitman games do. No, it's not save scumming, although I completely recommend doing that because obviously you're not a master assassin. It helps you with the game. My final tip is simply put on auto aim. Yep, as simple as that. The reason you have to put auto aim on is because if you compare Hitman's controls and movement and stuff like that, I would probably compare it to a game like Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, Red Dead Redemption 2, yes, it was quite difficult for aiming in certain aspects with certain guns. However, what they did have was Deadeye. Now, with Deadeye, what they allowed was slowing time down. So you could go and fire off multiple shots. With Hitman, at the end of the day, there's very little room for error. And if you do accidentally shoot the wall instead of the person, you're going to alert everyone because they've heard a gunshot and you're going to alert the person that you are actually targeting. So auto aim is really, really recommended. Now that you have all the tips, some of them might have seemed quite obvious. However, some of you might not have thought to actually have thought about them a little bit more clearly. Hopefully this has helped you in your adventures and your assassinations. But honestly, you should really just enjoy the game first. Use these tips and just play the campaign. All the other achievements like silent assassin, killing with poison, and various other aspects. With time, you'll get better at the game. Honestly, this is probably the biggest recommendation I can give you. Just play the campaign, enjoy yourself, then go back to the content and try and aim for the achievements because there is so much to do in the game. You can replay the map so many different ways.